Have you ever had one of those days? A day when, for no apparent reason, someone crosses your path and dumps a cloud of negativity on you? It could be an angry driver in traffic, a coworker who makes a sharp comment, an impatient store clerk, or even a friend who suddenly becomes cold and distant. The first reaction, almost instinctual, is to look inward. What did I do wrong? Did I say something I shouldn't have? Why doesn't this person like me? We internalize the rudeness, the indifference, the judgment. We let someone else's attitude become a verdict on our own worth. It's a subtle and powerful trap, a mental prison we build with the bars of self-doubt and self-criticism. We spend hours, sometimes days, replaying that interaction, dissecting every word, every glance, trying to find our fault in the other person's behavior. What if I told you that, in the overwhelming majority of cases, this search is in vain? What if I proposed a shift in perspective so radical it could fundamentally change the way you navigate your relationships and, more importantly, the way you feel about yourself? The truth, one of those truths that Stoics like Seneca and Marcus Aurelius tried to teach us millennia ago, is this: the way people treat you is rarely about you. It is almost always a direct and crystal clear reflection of their inner world. Someone's behavior toward you is a mirror, not of your face, but of the soul of the person looking at you. It's a projection of their own battles, their insecurities, their fears, their frustrations, and their unresolved pain. When you understand this, not as an intellectual concept, but as a truth felt deep within your being, something magical happens. You become free. You stop carrying the weight of other people's emotions. You stop handing the key to your peace of mind to people who, often, don't even know where they've put their own. You begin to understand that tranquility doesn't come from controlling how others act, but from mastering how you react. Our journey today is about this liberation. We're going to dive deep into this idea, explore why other people's behavior is a mirror, learn to distinguish destructive criticism from useful feedback, and develop practical strategies to protect our energy and our self-respect. This is not an invitation to indifference, but a call to wisdom. It's an invitation for you to stop being a supporting actor in other people's emotional dramas and become the serene director of your own life. If you're seeking more emotional resilience, if you want to build healthier relationships, and above all, if you want to strengthen your inner peace in an often chaotic world, this content was made for you. So, get comfortable, take a deep breath, and if you haven't already, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Because today we're going to uncover one of the most powerful secrets to a life of greater maturity and balance. The mirror of the soul. Why other people's behavior is a reflection. Consider this analogy. Imagine that every person is a cup. Some cups are full of fresh, pure water. Others are full of bitter coffee. And some, unfortunately, are full of poison or mud. Now, imagine that life, with its interactions and unexpected events, is someone bumping into these cups. When someone bumps into a cup, what spills out is not determined by the bump, but by what was already inside the cup. A person who is internally filled with peace, gratitude, and self-love, when bumped by a challenge or a difficult interaction, will tend to spill patience, understanding, and calm. On the other hand, a person whose interior is filled with anger, resentment, insecurity, and frustration when bumped, will inevitably spill just that: anger, criticism, bitterness. You in the interaction were just the bump. You didn't create the contents of the cup. You simply, unintentionally, revealed what was already there. I vividly remember a former boss I had. He was a master of micromanagement. Every email I sent had to be reviewed by him. Every small decision had to pass his inspection. At first, I took it personally. I thought, he doesn't trust me. He thinks I'm incompetent. I need to work harder to prove my worth to him. I lived in a constant state of anxiety, trying to anticipate his criticisms, working late to make sure everything was perfect in his eyes. My professional value seemed to be entirely in the hands of his approval. It took me a long time and a lot of self-reflection to realize that his behavior had nothing to do with my competence. It had everything to do with his profound insecurity. He had a paralyzing fear of failure, of being seen as a weak leader. His excessive control over the team was a defense mechanism to mask his own terror of not being good enough. When I realized this, the dynamic shifted. I didn't stop doing my work with excellence, but I stopped seeking his validation. His criticism was no longer an arrow that wounded me, it became just the sound of his own fear echoing. I developed a kind of detached compassion. I understood his pain, but I no longer allowed it to become mine. This dynamic repeats itself in all areas of life. That friend who always points out a flaw in your achievements? Perhaps they are struggling with a sense of stagnation in their own life, and diminishing others is the only way they know to feel a little bigger. That relative who criticizes your life choices? be it your career, your partner, or where you live. Often, this criticism is born from their regret for not having had the courage to make their own choices, projecting onto you the paths they didn't dare to follow. The person who treats you with arrogance and superiority? Frequently, this is a mask to hide a deep feeling of inadequacy. Truly confident and secure people don't feel the need to put others down to lift themselves up. They lift others up with them. Understanding this isn't a free pass to justify toxic behavior. Quite the opposite. It's the first step to protecting yourself from it. When you understand the source of the poison, you stop drinking it. You identify it, recognize it for what it is, a manifestation of someone else's pain, and you consciously choose not to bring it into your system. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus said, "People are not disturbed by things but by the views they take of them." The treatment you receive is the thing. Your disturbance comes from the view that this treatment is an accurate measure of your worth. Change the view and the disturbance vanishes, freeing yourself from the prison of external validation. The natural consequence of understanding the mirror principle is liberation from the need for external validation. If the way others treat me is about them, then why would I continue to base my self-esteem on their unstable and biased opinions? It would be like trying to build a house on ground that experiences daily earthquakes. It's an unsustainable foundation for peace of mind. We live in a culture that trains us from an early age to seek applause. On social media, we count likes. At work, we seek the boss's praise. In relationships, we often measure love by the amount of attention we receive. We become addicted to validation, and like any addiction, it weakens us, makes us dependent, and robs us of our autonomy. When you depend on external validation, you hand over control of your happiness to the world. And the world is fickle, unpredictable, and often indifferent. The real turning point happens when you start to cultivate internal validation. It's a process, a daily practice of becoming your own source of approval. How does this work in practice? It starts with defining your own values. What is important to you? Integrity? Kindness? Courage? Discipline? When you have clarity about your principles, you begin to measure your success not by the reaction of others, but by your alignment with those principles. For example, let's say one of your values is honesty. You're in a meeting and you express a sincere but unpopular opinion that goes against your manager's. He reacts badly, treating you coldly for the rest of the day. The old self, addicted to validation, would become anxious, full of regret. I shouldn't have said anything. Now he's angry with me. My job is at risk. The new self, who practices internal validation, would have a different conversation. His reaction was negative, and that's uncomfortable. However, I acted in accordance with my value of honesty. I had integrity. I can sleep peacefully tonight because I was true to myself, regardless of the external outcome. Do you see the monumental difference? In the first scenario, your peace is shattered. In the second, it is preserved, perhaps even strengthened. You become unshakable not because nothing bad happens, but because your foundation is in a place no one can touch, your own character. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. And the quality of your thoughts improves drastically when they are no longer focused on deciphering and pleasing others, but on cultivating your own virtue." This pursuit of internal validation doesn't make you arrogant or indifferent to feedback. On the contrary, it gives you the serenity needed to analyze feedback objectively, which brings us to our next crucial point. The vital difference: abusive behavior versus constructive feedback. Here we must make a fundamental distinction. The idea that the way people treat you is about them is not a shield to protect yourself from any and all criticism. It is not a free pass for stagnation, where you ignore everything others say under the pretext that it's their problem. Emotional maturity lies in knowing how to discern. To discern between a personal attack, which is the other person's poison spilling out, and constructive feedback, which is a gift, however difficult to receive, for your growth. How can we draw this line? There are some clear criteria we can use as a filter. 1. The intention behind the message. What is the motivation of the person speaking? Are they trying to help you improve or to put you down? A person offering genuine constructive feedback cares about your development. Their intention is to build up, not to tear down. The language might even be blunt, but the underlying goal is positive. On the other hand, abusive behavior or destructive criticism is intended to hurt, to exert power, to relieve the speaker's own frustration. It's an act of ego, not of generosity. Ask yourself, does this person generally show that they care about me and my well-being? The answer to this question is a huge indicator. 2. The focus of the message, behavior versus identity. Constructive feedback focuses on specific actions and behaviors that can be changed. For example, I noticed that in the last few reports, some data was missing. Can we review the process to make sure this doesn't happen again? The criticism is about what you did. A personal attack, however, attacks who you are. It uses generalizations and labels. For example, you're so sloppy and irresponsible. You never do anything right. This is not feedback, it's an assault on your identity. The first example invites you to action and improvement. The second invites you to shame and paralysis. 3. The specificity of the message. Useful feedback is specific. It points to concrete examples. When you interrupted me during the presentation to ask that question, I lost my train of thought. Next time, could you please write it down and ask at the end? This is clear, actionable, and respectful. Destructive criticism is vague and broad. You're always so inconvenient, or your attitude is terrible. What can you do with that information? Nothing. It doesn't serve to build, only to erode. 4. The context and timing. Constructive feedback is usually delivered at an appropriate time and place, preferably in private, to preserve the person's dignity. An attack can happen anytime, often in public, as the goal may be precisely to humiliate. When you receive criticism, run it through these filters. If it's specific, focused on behavior, coming from someone with good intentions, and delivered respectfully, listen carefully. Be grateful. Even if it stings, it's a gift. It's an opportunity to see yourself from an angle you couldn't see before. But if the criticism is an attack on your identity, vague, ill-intentioned, and humiliating, recognize it for what it is. Someone else's emotional trash. Visualize yourself leaving that trash on the ground and walking away without picking it up. Your peace is too valuable to be contaminated. Empathy as a tool of wisdom, not of submission. Upon understanding that someone's negative behavior stems from their own pain, a natural reaction might be empathy. Oh, that poor person, they must be suffering a lot to act this way. And that's good. Empathy is one of the noblest human qualities. However, there's a subtle trap here too, confusing empathy with permissiveness. Having empathy does not mean becoming an emotional punching bag. Understanding someone else's pain does not obligate you to absorb it or to accept being disrespected. Think of empathy not as a sponge that soaks everything up, but as a lighthouse that illuminates the situation. The lighthouse beam allows you to see clearly, okay, I see there's a ship in distress over there, the person in their pain. I see the dangerous rocks around it, the toxic behavior. And I see my own safe path, far from the rocks. Empathy, in this context, is a tool for emotional detachment. When someone is rude to you and instead of reacting with anger you think, wow, what a terrible day this person must be having to treat a stranger like this, you are not justifying their rudeness. You are protecting yourself. You are using understanding to create a healthy distance between their behavior and your state of mind. Anger or hurt would connect you energetically to them, pulling you into their drama. Wise empathy disconnects you. It allows you to observe the situation without getting emotionally entangled. This gives you your power back. Instead of being reactive, you become proactive. You can choose your response. And the most powerful response, often, is to set a clear and firm boundary. Which leads us directly to practical strategies. Practical strategies to protect your inner peace. Knowing the theory is one thing. Applying it in the heat of the moment is another entirely. When someone attacks us, our reptilian brain kicks in, preparing us to fight or flee. Anger and pain are biochemical reactions. The challenge is to train our conscious mind to intervene. Here are some practical strategies to cultivate this skill. 1. The sacred pause. This is the simplest and hardest technique. When you are confronted with negative treatment, before you say or do anything, pause. Take a deep breath. Once, twice, 3 times. This pause of a few seconds is a revolutionary act. It creates a space between the stimulus, the other's behavior, and your response. In that space lies your freedom. In that space you can consciously remind yourself, this is about him, her, not me. This pause short-circuits the automatic reaction and allows your wiser self to take control. 2. The mental shield of objectivity. Visualize a transparent, impenetrable shield around you. When negative words or toxic energy come your way, see them hitting this shield and falling to the ground untouched. It is not a shield of anger or counterattack. It is a shield of objectivity. The words are just sounds. The energy is just the manifestation of the other's pain. They have no intrinsic power over you unless you invite them in. Practice this visualization. It anchors the idea that you are separate from the other person's behavior. 3. The curious question for internal use: change the question you ask yourself. Instead of "why is this happening to me?" which is a victim's question, shift to "I wonder what is happening with this person that makes them feel the need to act this way." This shift in focus is transformative. It moves you from the position of a target to that of an observer, almost like a social scientist studying a phenomenon. This removes the personal charge and allows you to see the situation with more clarity and less pain. 4. The art of setting boundaries calmly and firmly. Understanding someone else's pain doesn't mean you have to tolerate disrespect. Protecting your peace often requires communicating your boundaries. The key is to do it assertively, not aggressively. Use "I" statements to express how the other's behavior affects you without accusing them. Asterisk instead of "you're so rude," try "I don't feel comfortable when you speak to me in that tone of voice." Asterisk instead of "stop interrupting me," try "I would like to finish my thought, please." Asterisk if the person persists, you can calmly say, "I'm not going to continue this conversation while we're at this level of disrespect. We can talk about this later when we're both calmer." This isn't about winning an argument. It's about teaching others how you expect and deserve to be treated. It is a profound act of self-worth. 5. Strategic distancing and the healthy no. Some people are consistent sources of negativity. No matter how much you understand their pain or set boundaries, they continue to drain your energy. In these cases, the wisest strategy is distance. This doesn't have to be a dramatic breakup. It can mean reducing the frequency of contact, limiting the duration of interactions, or choosing not to share your vulnerabilities with this person anymore. Saying no to an invitation or a request from someone who consistently makes you feel bad is not selfish. It's self-preservation. You have a responsibility to be the guardian of your own well-being. Cultivating the inner garden, the ultimate source of resilience. All these strategies are like gardening tools for dealing with the weeds that try to invade your space. But the most effective long-term defense is to cultivate an inner garden so strong, vibrant, and healthy that the weeds simply can't find fertile soil to grow in. What does it mean to cultivate your inner garden? It means proactively investing in your own peace, self-knowledge, and resilience, so that you become less dependent on the external weather conditions, the behavior of others. 1. Practice self-knowledge. Who are you without the labels others have given you? What do you value? What brings you genuine joy? What lights you up inside? Spend time with yourself in silence. Meditate. Write in a journal. Walk in nature. The more you know and appreciate yourself, the less the opinions of others will define you. You become your own anchor. 2. Surround yourself with nutrients. Evaluate who and what you allow into your life. What books do you read? What podcasts do you listen to? What accounts do you follow on social media? And most importantly, who do you spend your time with? Surround yourself with people who support, inspire, and celebrate you. Relationships should be a source of nourishment, not drainage. Be as selective with the people in your life as you are with the food you eat. 3. Celebrate your own achievements. Don't wait for others to recognize your worth. Recognize it yourself. Celebrate the small victories. Completed a difficult task? Give yourself a pat on the back. Acted with courage? Acknowledge your strength. Were you kind when it was easier to be rude? Honor your character. Create a mental or physical win jar and fill it with your own accomplishments. This builds a reserve of self-esteem that sustains you when the outside world is critical. 4. Focus on your purpose. One of the most effective ways to become immune to others' negativity is to be passionately busy building your own life. When you have a purpose, a project, a passion that consumes you, you simply don't have the time or energy to worry about the pettiness of others. Their drama becomes irrelevant background noise because you are focused on your own music. Conclusion: taking back your power. Let's return to that opening scene. The bad day, the unexpected rudeness, the feeling that you did something wrong. Now imagine that same scene but with your new perspective. The angry driver cuts you off in traffic. Instead of feeling rage, you think, "He must be late for something important. I hope he makes it." The coworker makes a sharp comment. Instead of feeling hurt, you observe and think, "He seems to be in a very bitter place today. This isn't about me." You don't absorb. You observe, you understand, and you move on. Your peace remains intact. This isn't magic. It's training. It's a daily practice of reminding yourself that you are the guardian of your inner sanctuary. The behavior of others is the weather outside. It might be raining, it might be sunny, there might be a storm. You can't control the weather, but you can decide whether you're going to let the rain into your house. The way people treat you says everything about the state of their inner world, about their pain, their fears, and their limitations. But the way you react to that treatment says everything about the state of yours. And that is where all your power lies. In every interaction you have a choice, to give that power away or to keep it for yourself. The journey to emotional maturity is this: the journey of consistently choosing yourself. Of choosing your peace, your balance, your self-respect. It's understanding that the greatest proof of strength is not to retaliate, but to refuse to be diminished. It's realizing that true freedom is not changing others, but becoming immune to the need for them to change in order for you to be happy. I invite you to take this reflection into your week. Observe your interactions through this new lens. When someone treats you negatively, pause and ask, what is this really telling me about this person? And more importantly, how can I choose to respond in a way that honors my own peace? Share in the comments a situation where you realized someone's behavior wasn't about you. How did that realization change how you felt? Your story can inspire others in this community to take back their power too. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Remember, wisdom is not a destination, it's a path. And with every conscious step, you become stronger, more serene, and more free. Until next time.